Here we go. Eyes up and solving flow chart. Okay. The solving flow chart is not how to do the skills. It's just what should I be trying first, second, or third. Okay, which is up there on the board for reference today. The first thing you should be trying is if there is one x, you should be isolating. All right. Is there one x? No. Okay. Second, if you can factor, use the zero product property. Can I factor number 1? Well, let's try. I get a 1 and a 3, a 1 and a 2. Now those are both primes, so there's not a lot of choices. So I'm going to write in this choice, and then I'm just going to try the other one. I'm pretty sure I get 3 and 2. So 2 and 1, and I'm checking it. A minus 3x and a positive 2x. Okay? Equals 0. So if I can factor it, I use the zero product property, which says that either the first factor or the second factor will be 0. So x equals minus 2/3 and 1. That's your answer. It's quadratic. That means degree 2. There are 2 answers. Okay, number 2. Here's my flow chart. If there is one x, I should isolate it. It's number 1 because you do it first. You don't want to try factoring if you don't have to. This is in order of easiest to hardest methods. There's only one x, so I try to isolate it. So I'm just going to highlight the single x. That's the part I'm trying to get by itself. Okay, so, which is your PEMDAS, I'm going to add the 1/3 to the other side. Then I'm going to square root. X equals plus or minus root 1/3. And then, before I box my answer, I look at it. Is that how I want to leave my radical? No. I want to rationalize by using the multiplicative identity of 1. It's just fancy looking. Notice that this is actually 2 answers. One is positive root 3/3. The other is negative root 3/3. All right. Number 3. I see 1x, which is stuck here inside the parentheses, but that's the thing I'm trying to isolate. But it is stuck inside the parentheses with the square, which means you do PEMDAS, but you do it backwards. So I'm going to have to minus the 4 and divide the 2 first. First I minus 4, and then I divide by 2. So I get this on my way to isolating x. Square root both sides. Plus or minus root -2. Okay, so now that I have a radical, I'm just looking at my radical and I'm like, okay, do I want to leave my radical like that? No, there's a negative. I should be writing that with an I instead. Just going to pop down here. Okay. X minus 3 plus or minus I. The 2 doesn't go anywhere because it's not a perfect square. And then I add 3. Once I get all the way to the exponent, I just start back over at the s again. Now, none of those things were like terms, so I just left them there, unsimplified, right? Not added together. Yes.
Did x minus 3
Okay, so what if you FOILed it out? This is why you have the flow chart. If there is only one x, you need to isolate. So you are trying to get to here, but it's almost, you're doing a lot of extra work, which is why we do it in that order. All right. Number 2 is actually easiest / hardest because flow chart. Do I see 1x? No. Can you factor it? Yes. Yes, there is a GCF of 2x. GCF, greatest common factor. That counts as factoring. And so zero product property says that one or the other will be 0. So when I divide by 2, I get 0. And so my answers are 0 and 9. Okay, anything else from your packet? I'm not going to ask for vocab words. I just want you to be able to solve for x today. Yes. 15. Anything else on page 1 before I flip it over? Yes. 7. Yes. Okay. All right. Let's look at 7. There it goes. Okay. Flow chart. Do you have 1x? No. Can you factor it? Hopefully. So 2 and 3 are both prime, and I'm going to try to get to 7. So I think that would be 6 and 1. All right, so let's set up our factors. 2x and 1x, 3 and 1. All right, check our signs. Minus 6x and minus 1x. Okay, so my factors work. And then I set each factor to 0. And I end up with x equals 1/2 and x equals positive 3. That. Okay, anything else from page 1? 9. Okay, yeah, 9's a good one. Flow chart. Do you have 1x? Yes, that means you should be trying to isolate it. If you pick the wrong method, it's a lot harder than it needs to be. Okay? So, I'm going to minus 64 from both sides and divide by 4. And then I square root. So x equals plus or minus negative root 16. Is this how you want to leave your radical? No. X equals, well, 16 is a perfect square, and negative 1 is I. So it's plus or minus 4i. If you had tried factoring, it doesn't factor. And so you get stuck, which is why you really got to do that flow chart. Easiest method to hardest method. Okay, back side. Was it 15? Oh, okay. Before I get to 15, is there anything else from those top 6? Anything else from the top 6? Okay, 15. I see a GCF of 2. Okay, so I start factoring it, and then I look at this, and I've got 1 and 3, 1 and 6, 2 and 3. And so I write down my factors, and I'm like, I hope I can factor. All right, so I don't have too many choices, but I do have some. So 1 and 6, 6 and 1, 2 and 3, or 3 and 2. Can I get to 4? 18 and 1, no. 3 and 6, no. 9 and 2, no. 6 and 3, no. It doesn't factor. It's not prime. It's not prime because a GCF counts as factoring. However, for now, you're saying, I don't know how to solve this because there's more than one x and it doesn't factor. And that was sort of the point, because this is the question you're going to learn how to solve today. What do I do when it doesn't have square roots and it can't factor? Okay, so we will solve this question before the end of class. Are there other questions about these? And you don't have to solve on the calculator. Yes.
Like for this, like on the quiz.
It won't have that on the quiz. It's going to solve by square roots or factoring. Okay. One of those two methods will work. Anything else?
28.
28?
I just think if so if like you put the same, then go for like any of the ones in the second part that were.
This part? Yeah, exactly. Okay, 28. The length, I'm going to draw my rectangle. Okay. The length of a rectangle is 1 more than 5 times its width. Okay, so width, the length is 5 times, the length is 1 more. Okay, so I think those are my dimensions. The area is 130 equals 5w plus 1 times w. Well, I have more than one w, so I'm going to multiply this out. 5w squared plus 1w. And then I'm going to minus 130. And that's what I would try factoring with. Now 5 is prime, and so I would hope that I can come up with a number that gets me to 1. So 130, I've got 1, I feel like trying 13 and 10, or 26 and 5. Yeah, 26 and 5. I was trying to get two numbers that were close together. Now, I do try to keep your numbers under 100 because your times tables are a lot faster that way. So this is a little bit big. Okay, because 130, there's a lot of things to consider with 130. But 26 and 5, but I need a positive, this, and a minus, which means W is negative 26 over 5, or W is 5. Well, guess what? A width can't be negative, so you get this. Now, you could have tried numbers until you got them to multiply to 130. But anything else about solving?